it's funny as you sit here, I'm listening to you, and you definitely have coach voice.
Yeah.
You have like the always permanently raspy voice.
A little bit, especially right now.
Having to yell out at the kids. Yep, exactly.
The wind, yelling against the wind.
When you're driven, the need to accomplish a goal is relentless. Hard work and ambition compel you to do whatever's necessary. In my work as a personal injury trial lawyer for 18 years, it's common to meet driven people. Those with drive can have different personalities, careers, or backgrounds, but they possess one common factor. Despite their passions, driven people want to surround and motivate themselves with other driven people. If you want to learn how to overcome obstacles by learning from others, then tune in here. This is the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 71 of the Driven Crowd Podcast, fueled by Snellings Law. I'm your host, Scott Snellings. I am joined today by head softball coach and women's coordinator at Plano West, Coach Mike Ledsome. Coach Ledsome has been head softball coach at Plano West since the school opened in 1999 and 2000 school year, and recently achieved his 500th win earlier this month. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology from Stephen F. Austin State University and is happily married to his wife, Cathy Ledsome, a third grade team leader at Barksdale Elementary in Plano, Texas. They have twins, Caitlin and Dylan, and can't forget the golden retriever named Jake. Coach Ledsome, welcome to the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Nice
Absolutely.
To be here.
So let's start off. Tell us kind of where you grew up and how you got into being a softball coach.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Houston. Did all my schooling in Houston, Texas, in Alief. Went to Alief Hastings High School where I played football and baseball. I was a baseball guy. Baseball was my first love. You know, when I started playing, I played everything. I tried everything, played everything. I was just a competitive kid.
Yeah.
You know, so I wanted to try every sport. I think even in high school at one point, I was playing tennis, baseball, golf, tried a little basketball. That didn't go too well, but, you know, being short and everything and just wasn't a very good shooter. You know, either. Right. So it didn't help. But I like to try everything. I like to play anything, things on the weekends with my friends. I mean, you name it, golf. I mean, I love golf. I wish I could do more golf, you know, now. And hopefully I'll get to that point here in a few more years and play a little more golf. But always a big competitive, big sports guy. Growing up, my parents were the same way. They kind of, you know, put that on me a little bit too. And because they were like, hey, what do you want to get involved in next? What do you want to do? And I was like, oh, what about this? What about this? So I tried everything. But big baseball guy. Went to Stephen F. Austin where I played for 1 year for SFA baseball. Their program wasn't as big then. It's a lot better now. And they were a little bit more like a club, you know, type program when I tried out for them. And I don't know, just wasn't a good fit. I just didn't feel like, okay, you know, I gave it a shot. I tried out, I made it past that point to the first round of making a college team, but I just didn't want to stay with it at that point. I was ready to get into college and go my other route and what else, you know, see what else is out there and see what else I was going to do. My dad was an accountant, so, you know, I was always good with numbers and math. So computers and accounting was kind of my first thing I thought about and kind of got into. Didn't really think about, you know, coaching or teaching or anything like that. So the first 2-3 years was on that. And then I just, you know, it just didn't go. It just didn't feel right. Just didn't go the way I thought it was going. So kind of took a semester off to kind of think about it a little bit. And hey, what do I really love? Well, I really love, you know, sports. You know, where do I go for that route? So teaching. You know, I met my wife there as well. I met my wife at SFA. She was in the elementary ed and teaching, you know, part of schooling. So I was like, okay, you know, let's go that route. Let's go kinesiology. Let's see where that goes. And loved all of that. Loved all those classes. Kind of was like, okay, you know, this is where I go now. You know, softball, where did that come about? That didn't come about till my third year of coaching. I got my job here in Plano. I got it in the central part of Plano because West wasn't even open at the time.
Right.
And I got my first job with Coach Brents and Coach Kimbrough, football guys. And so legends for sure. And so I got Schimmelfinnick Middle School was where I was doing football, basketball, and track for the first 3 years. Loved it, loved everything, but loved football. I thought coaching football was like, okay, yeah, this might be where I want to go. Jasper High School, which is one of the 9th and 10th grade schools, they had a baseball program. So I was like, got to know the coach. I knew him from some other things and said, hey, could I help? Is there anything I can do? I'd love to help. Want to get into the baseball world. What do I do? And he said, sure, come on out and kind of volunteer and help. I was still employed by Plano and doing the other things, but I was able to get off and help a little bit and do Jasper baseball. Loved that for 2 years. And then year 3, I believe that was 97. Jasper, might have even been year 2. Jasper decided to add a 9th and 10th grade softball team. Kimbrough came to me, said, hey, would you be interested? And I'm like, girls, softball? I'm like, don't know really anything about it. I figured, baseball's got a little bit of the background with it, but I'm like, sure, let's go.
Pretty much the same game.
Pretty much the same game. I'll figure it out, And I was like, they were looking for somebody. I was like, hey, maybe I'll scratch his back right now. He'll scratch mine later on, too. So got to that team. There was a lot of those girls that were played at Plano on the JV as freshmen year before that came down and now played for me. So it was freshman and sophomore group. And then the freshman group was a pretty good group of girls that, and we just took off. It was unbelievable. It was one of those, years where I don't think we didn't lose a game. We won a game by, I think, 8 to 10 runs every game.
Oh, wow.
I was like, hey, maybe I know what I'm doing here,
This is easy.
This is easy stuff. But those girls were so good and already skilled that I didn't know. I didn't know what kind of the fast, the pitch, I thought it was going to be a little bit slower pitch. I didn't know. I really didn't know what it was coming into it. Did a lot of background stuff, talked to a lot of people, leading up to it and saying, what do I need to look for? What do I need to do? And man, I just kind of went into it, say, hey, I've got my baseball background. I'm going to take a little bit of that into the softball world. And I know nothing about the pitching, none of that. I'm going to need some help there. And I was able to get some help from some dads and some coaches and things to help with that. And, but man, those girls just made me kind of fall in love with it right off the bat. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is competitive. This is a lot more competitive and a lot more intense, than I thought it was going to be. Everyone's like, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm like, okay. Here we go.
A whole lot more fun too when you're winning.
Oh my gosh, just the cheering, just the camaraderie, just everything the girls that they bring to the field has got me hooked, and then from that point on, here we go. And West opened up at 99. I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. I'll go for that spot. And I thought I was going to get the Plano spot. I thought the coach before that, the year before, was going to leave. We had talked, and because that's who I was working with at the time,
right?
The senior high girls. And she was like, well, I'm going to go out maybe, next year, then maybe you could come in, and fill the spot. I'm like, okay, that'd be cool. She decided to stay one more year, so I didn't get it. I did Jasper one more year, and then West opened up in 99, and I interviewed, and I guess I did really well in my interview and got the spot. And then
you've been there ever since.
I've been there ever since, all 26 years.
500 wins later.
Oh, crazy to even think about that. When you come into coaching, you never think about those milestones or getting to those points and things. Like you want to compete. You want your program to be good and compete at a high level. And if you get to that point, then the wins are going to come. And stuff. And winning is great. Believe me, I'm a competitive person. I want to win. But you never think, are you ever going to reach? How long are you going to do it, or how many years are you going to do it? I never thought that. I thought this was just kind of another stepping stone. Don't know where it was going to lead to, where it's going to go. And yeah, it's led to that. Pretty cool.
Well, it's funny as you sit here, I'm listening to you, and you definitely have coach voice.
Yeah.
You have like the always permanently raspy voice.
A little bit, especially right now.
Having to yell out at the kids. Yep, exactly.
The wind, yelling against the wind right now.
I'll tell you what, and it's been crazy wind here recently. So you mentioned when you were growing up, you got to play kind of every different sport. We were talking about this before the show, how when you grow up, back when we were growing up, you played baseball. When baseball was over, you played football. When that was over, you played basketball or whatever, all the way through. Now we don't really see that as much. We see kids almost specializing so early. You get to coach these girls as they get up to you. What are some of obviously probably getting a ton more reps is a benefit. What are some of the things that you see them having sacrificed by spending so much time just playing one sport?
Well, it's definitely a sacrifice. You said it right there. It's these girls sacrifice a lot. They sacrifice a lot of the extra time they get to do, even with just hanging out with friends, to going on vacations, to, you name it. Spring break, big example. We just had spring break. I haven't had a spring break in 26 years. We've always played softball season for high school balls during spring break. I know with a lot of seniors this year, you could see that they were itching, seeing friends going to do that, and having all those senior moments, are tough because you do have to sacrifice you to get to the level and play at the level, to compete at the level that at the high level that you want to compete at. Almost specializing going a year round. Not saying just doing one sport. I've seen kids do multiple sports and still be very successful. And we preach that. I mean, we're at West, we're like, we want to use our kids, but we're a big school, and big schools have a lot more kids to choose from. So a lot of times it gets specialized and they go that one sport because they feel like to make it on that varsity team, I'm going to have to do that. And that's not necessarily the full truth in the whole case, but yes, it does help. It does help for you to make your varsity team and make it a high level, and even as a freshman or softball, if you have specialized in that one sport and playing it year round, because you're going to get better no matter what. You're going to get better, and you're going to play at the level and play against teams that you need to play against to compete, at that high level, at the varsity and high school level too, for sure.
And so what advice would you give to parents with, for instance, let's say a 10-year-old, right? I have a 10-year-old at home, Olivia, who just got into softball 2 seasons ago. She's playing in her second season right now, really is enjoying it, has tried a bunch of different sports. What would you tell parents is kind of that golden time for them to kind of choose a sport to lock into, if assuming they love it, and assuming that, they think they might be able to go somewhere with it?
Yeah, I think you said it right there about they love it, because you can try them in all those sports. You're going to see that one. They go, hey, can I go play catch? Can I go swing some more? If they start asking you those questions, then usually you kind of know which one it is. Because if they're just saying, okay, what's next? Or, hey, okay, what's next? Where are we going to do next? They probably still haven't found, found that niche or which one they want to go to yet. But if you find that one, like, hey, I want to go shoot a few extra shots. Hey, I want to go kick a few more balls. Then you kind of know, what they really, really do love, follow. Because for me, I love playing everything, but I always I want to go swing some more. I want to go hit some more. I want to go play catch some more. That was always me, So, and you see the girls that want to do that. Hey, Dad, come meet me. Let's take them a few extra balls. Let's a few more. Those are the ones that okay, now you found it. They found the love for the game. They found the one that they want. And that's kind of how you know. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on them at an early level, because middle school is, some of these sports aren't involved in the middle school level. So you only get it in the summertime or in the after school or whenever it is. So having them go enjoy and learning that team concept is huge. Being on a team, seeing if this is what they want to do, because sometimes that's not for everybody either, for those kids. But to get them in a team sport and team, I'm a big team guy, so I'm learning how to be in that culture and be playing with each other and those kind of things. Those are huge to me. And I think that is where you'll kind of see, I would like for them to get that experience first and feel that, more than feeling like, oh my gosh, now I got to just do this one sport. Let them enjoy being a part of a team. Let them learn because the more the better when it comes to that, for sure, in any sports. But, they get to that middle school, 7th and 8th grade level. It's time going into 9th grade. It's probably time to decide, okay, am I going to do this one or these two or whatever the case may be. But I think you kind of have to, you don't have to push it on them, but I think you got to start thinking about it and let them choose. I mean, you got to, no matter what, they're kids, and yes, you're your mom and dad, but let them choose, let them say, hey, this is what I want to try. This is what I want to do, because they'll be happier, and you'll even be happier, at times, because now they're choosing that the one they love, for sure.
Yeah, our oldest, chose band. Yeah. I hadn't the first clue about band and how involved it was and how intense it was. Yeah. To this day, after having 4 years of band concerts or marching competitions, I still don't know what the judges look for. I think they do fantastic every time, and they haven't really advanced much of all, right? But you mentioned something huge here, which is teams first and foremost, and then also culture. So let's start with teams. When you put together a team, obviously you're looking for skill sets. You're looking for girls who are good at what they do. What are you looking for out of these girls from a teammate perspective?
Well, I think I heard it best from Coach Patrick Murphy at Alabama, and he's one of those guys that I emulate a lot. He was one of the first ones that I met when I became the head softball chair for the state of Texas with TGCA, and I got to bring him in and bring him into a clinic and meet him and talk to him, and because I always watched what he did, and I'm like, man, their culture is unbelievable. Their kids, and even when you talk to their kids, what does he do? So I'm picking his brain like crazy, and his biggest thing, he brought it back again this past summer. I got to see him again at Texas High School coaching school. Is intangibles. The intangibles. Not besides the skill set, like you said. What other intangibles do each one of these kids bring in? Do they have leadership skills? Do they have the rah-rah, skills almost is what he calls it. Do they have that spirit, that energy that they can bring to their teammates? Do they have the respect, all of those, like, do they respect the game? Do they respect the teammates? All that. And a lot of that comes from their growing up, what they've learned at home to what they've learned on teams already, coming in to who they've played with and who they've learned from their peers. So a lot of it comes from that. But he had so many, intangibles are so many different things. Every kid can bring a different intangible to the team. So I always look at that a little bit. I look like, hey, when it comes to those last few players that maybe aren't the starters, the high skilled ones, what are you going to add to your team? What are they going to bring to the team? Can they be great rah-rah kids on the bench? Can they be ready to play when you need them? Those kind of things. They had that kind of mindset. So you're looking at it mentally too, and the mindset and what they're bringing, because the kids that sit on the bench, they have to have a stronger mindset than the ones that are in there all the time. Even then they got to be ready to go. And when they're going to be ready to go, or am I going to get my time, or why am I not playing? A million things are going through their heads. So, you kind of look at that. Can they handle that? Can they handle that? And if they can, then that's who you want. That's a culture you want. That's what you want to bring into your team, because they're going to bring that intangible of, I'm going to work hard no matter what. And when I get my chance, I'm going to get my chance, but I'm going to be a great teammate. So.
And I think that's so important too. I'm sitting here thinking back on the teams that I've been on and the teams that I've seen my kiddos on. And you can walk into a dugout, to a locker room, just watch the kids and how they interact with each other. And you can identify the leaders on that team pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
And most people would say, well, it's probably the ones that are the best at whatever sport that is. A lot of times, yes, but not always. In fact, I would say 50-50 on the ones that I'm thinking of and can remember. A lot of them were kids who didn't start, were kids who never really saw the field, but they were so respected by their teammates that they were a really integral part of that team. Yep. They were the ones helping cheer up, the kid who just couldn't drive in the winning run, the one who dropped the fly ball, the one who tripped, whatever it may be. And that's something that is so crucial to have on any team, whether it be a sports team, whether it be at work, whether it be in whatever it is that you're doing. Look for those people, right? So let me ask you this. How do you teach these intangibles to the girls if you think you can? Yeah,
it's hard to teach it, but I can preach it, more than teach it, and I can talk about it, and I can be like, okay, this is what we got to do. This is what we got to do, and highlight it. Because when you highlight it, those things, because those are things you're seeing behind the scenes. And it may be something that happened in the dugout, person jumping out and high-fiving and, jumping up and down in the dugout. And to highlight that at the end of the game instead of the grand slam that was hit, which is hard to do because you want to highlight that too. But you want to also highlight what's going on, with those players that aren't starting and aren't playing on the field, because they're the ones that when they do get an opportunity, they're going to get the biggest cheers. They're going to get the biggest from their teammates and stuff like that. But it's hard. It's not an easy thing that you can coach, teach. It's got to be something that they got to have in them, a little bit. And they've got to be able to, learn on their own, because if you can sit there and tell it to me, you got to be this way, you got to be this way, they're not going to respond to that.
Right.
They're not going to, if you just let them live and learn a little bit and let them go, okay, I get what coach is saying. Just say it, keep saying it, remind him of it, because then eventually I think it clicks, and eventually they go, okay, now we get what he's saying. Yeah, it does need everybody, to get this done, because I always look at my bench during the game and I'm like, who's ready? Who's ready? Is anybody ready? Because, and I tell them this all the time, like, I'm looking over there. You might not think that, but I'm looking over there, and my head coach or my assistant coaches are doing the same thing. They're going to let me know, who's ready. And if you're over there just kind of,
No idea what's going on.
But if you're over there jumping up and down and you're running out of here when in between innings and doing things or going to hit more or do whatever, I know you're ready. And I'm going to get you in the game, or I'm going to find a way if I need to get you in the game, because I know you're ready and I know you're prepared. So, it's intangibles, I think, are within them, but to preach it and talk about it, I think they can learn it, of course, and kind of put it in their head a little bit. And then sometimes it takes them just to do it once. If they do it once, then they're like, okay, I got it. But until they do it once, they're very hesitant. Sometimes it's just, I don't know about that, coach. I don't know about yelling. I don't know about being loud. I don't know about, saying this or saying that, but they just take some one time to do it. And then they kind of takes on the role.
It's funny that you brought that up, because I have a pretty good example from this weekend.
Yeah.
We're in modified girls pitch. So basically the player pitches, and if they get this term it was 4 balls, and the coach comes out and pitches. Well, so we had a girl who took 3 awesome swings. She fouled off a few and then struck out swinging on the kid pitcher. Yeah. And our dugout erupted in applause and cheering her on, because she was up there taking cuts when it would have been super easy to just take the balls, let the coach come out, you're comfortable with the coach,
just walk. Yeah.
And the coach highlighted that.
That's awesome.
To the entire team. Yep. And I thought that was an amazing thing to pick up on and highlight to the team. Yep. And you know what? After that, girls started swinging more.
They started swinging more. They see it. Girls are visual. There's no doubt they're visual, and they pick up on a lot of that rah emotional stuff. If you get that, they're like, oh, I want that. I want that. They love that. They feed off of that. And the girls don't want to hear, all the time, and all the information and all the things that you're, barking out at them all the time. You might be barking, but then they hear, that's a great job. Boy, that's what they hear. And, and I think that's what they respond to. You got some that you got, come on, let's go. You're better than that. They want that, and they need that, and that helps them, because you got to learn each and every one of your players, and especially comes to girls and to women, they're each very different, and emotionally, socially, everything. And you gotta find the right buttons to push sometimes, and find the right ways to, interact with them, because some can take it and some cannot. So sometimes just, not saying anything, and then talking about it later, I think helps, because girls eventually want to know why, and they want to know, why am I struggling, or why am I not doing this? Why am I not getting a hit? Why am I not making these plays? And you're saying it. But until you kind of take that time to really talk about it and really dig deep a little bit more mentally, into it, because that's it. A lot of times it's just like, get rid of it. Get it out of your head. Get rid of that. Because if you're thinking that and those bad thoughts are thinking in your head, you're not focused on what you need to be focused on. That's huge.
And I think that's such a huge difference between baseball/softball and a lot of other sports, right? If you're playing basketball, you miss the shot, you make a dumb play, you're out there, you can go recover. You just go, you have an immediate, right? Football, you go hit the next guy.
Yes.
A lot of other sports are like that too. You miss a shot, great, go take the next one. Baseball/softball is not like that. You don't know when the next ball's coming to you.
There's some time.
Yeah,
there's
you
some
gotta
time
wait
in between them.
At least 9 people till you get up to the plate again, right?
Exactly.
In younger leagues, you got to wait 12, 13 times.
Exactly.
And so you get to sit there and sit on it.
Yeah.
How do you help girls work through letting that go?
Yeah.
Like processing and letting it go in a pretty quick manner.
That's probably one of the hardest thing to do, because I talk about having a short memory all the time in our game, because our game, is a lot of it's based on stats, but you think about that and you go 1 for 3, you got 1 hit, you're batting .333. That's pretty good.
It's really
you got
good,
1 hit, but you struck out the other 2. So how do you balance that? How do you be okay with that? And I think I'm not a big stat driven guy. I've never been that way. That's always great in the long run when it's all said and done. Yeah. Oh, she hit this or did that. And when it comes to the all district teams and the all, whatever, a lot of that comes to that. But like I said, that's not all the intangibles. That's not getting that 1 big hit in a situation where she struck out the other 3 times, but man, she got the hit the 4th time that won the game. So, I mean, it's complicated. It's complicated at times, because we are very stat driven, but that's not, you got to have such a short memory in this game, because eventually it's going to come back to you. And eventually it's going to come back to you. Have another bat. You're going to have another ball hit to you in the 7th inning in a crucial spot. 2 people on. I got to get a hit, or I got to move them over. So there's so many situations that, we talk about having a short memory and being able to kind of flush it is what we call it sometimes. Just flush it, just flush it, just get rid of it and move on. And it's not easy. That's not an easy thing to teach, coach. That's got to be just drilled until they kind of just decide to take that on, and to take that duty. Their teammates help with that. I know the teammates, I'm always like, hey, pick them up, pick up the next person, do this and do that. So I'm big on teammates that are, because there's certain ones that can help certain kids, on the team as well. So you're always like, hey, let's go say something funny to them. Go get them, do something just to get their mind off of what just happened. So that's my thing. And as a coach, sometimes you got to say something. Sometimes you just got to, let them figure it out themselves, but and come back to it later if you need to.
But I think that's such an amazing life lesson, right? Because, to this day, there's rarely a day that goes by that I don't screw something up.
Exactly.
Right? And I can sit there and beat myself up. Absolutely. And as a young lawyer especially, oh man, I was not nice to myself. I was very not nice to myself.
I went through those years too.
You screw something up and you feel like you let everybody down or your client down especially. And, I think as I've gotten more gray hairs, I've learned that, what? If I'm going to treat myself that way, I'm not going to be in this for very long because it just beats you up mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And the quicker the kids can learn those lessons, the better. Absolutely. And so I love the fact that, especially in kids' sports, you're learning how to lose. You're learning how to recover.
You have to.
Oh. And so how do you approach those failures with your kiddos in terms of the bigger perspective and how do you bring life into that softball dugout?
Yeah, because that's, we have a great example of that. We just came off a very tough loss. We were up 5-2. We didn't start out real well. They kind of got on us and we kind of couldn't get it going until about the fourth or fifth inning. Then we did, which resiliency was there. It was great. The girls just kept battling, and we got to that 5-2 lead. Seventh inning, one error happens, another error happens. They put a couple hits together. Next thing you know, they tied it up. Next thing you know, they went up 6-5 on us. I'm like, okay, we're good. We're home team. We got in at bat. So trying to get past all of that is hard. It's very hard in that situation, the seventh inning, because I could see it on their faces. So I just tried to stay as positive as I could. Like, okay, we're good. We got the last at bat. We just scored a bunch of runs the last 2 innings. We can do it again. We got the top of the lineup up. You're trying to find those things that get them out of it. Deep down, yeah, they're thinking the other way, of course. But, as a coach, you just kind of try to throw the things out there to get their mind off of that and move on because it's quick. You got to try to find something as fast as you can to figure it out. And sometimes it's like, all right, we're good. Let's go. We got this and move on. And other times you're like, come on, we're better than that. Let's push. Let's do what we got to do. And so at that moment, I was just kind of like, we're all right. We've done this before. We've come back in an earlier game in district and got it done in the last inning. So you go on experiences as well. So I just kind of went, hey, remember where we were? We were down 4 runs to Plano. Let's go. We got this. This is only 1 run. So just kind of, doing that and kind of put them trying to do a different mindset and to get rid of that inning that just happened and it's not hard. And it didn't happen for us. And then they got us and they beat us 6-5. And so we were down. That's a tough loss, but it's like, okay, today, what do I got to do in practice to get us past that? What do I got to go say in a pregame or a postgame speech to kind of help move us on? But sometimes they need some tough love. And I felt like this one that we needed a little bit of tough love. So I went in and I was like, guys, I don't think we were mentally prepared. We didn't get off to a start. We weren't focused at the beginning. So, these are the things that I think led to this. Now, what happens on the field, we lost. We came up a little short, but I think there's some things we can do from the get-go, mentally focused, all those kind of things to get us off to a better start and keep us involved in the game that we've done in the past that I just didn't feel like that was there. Saturday, spring break, different time, a lot of that was going into it already. So, it was unfortunate, but they're trying to move on as quick as you can is always the hardest thing to teach to our girls. And it's like, because I know it's dwelling and they're sitting on it. And they're so trying to using their teammates, using some past examples, using some things that just to stay, to get them out of that mindset is kind of what I've used in the past. So,
yeah, we're big on I don't know where I got this from. I didn't create it, but creating those mental assets is what we call them, right? So things that we've been able to accomplish that were way harder than what it is we're looking at right now. So the easy one for me is running. I ran a marathon this last year. And so now when I'm out on a run and I'm not feeling good, it's, hey, I've run a marathon. I can get through this. And we use it on our team too. Like, hey guys, I know we're underwater right now, but you know what? This is nothing like what we faced, 6 months ago.
Exactly.
We got this. Let's jump in. Let's get through it and get it back. So that's worked really, really well for us as those mental assets. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about culture. How do you teach and maintain the culture of your softball team?
I do what I team them to death. I do as much team stuff as I can. We'll compete in practice. We'll end with a competition. It may be just something like we're leapfrogging, or whatever. Just stuff that brings that camaraderie, that competitive nature, because they're all there to compete. They love to compete. They love to win. All of that. So this always gives them something that they want, but it also teaches them that you lose sometimes too. And like you already brought that up, but learning how to lose is probably so much harder than winning. Because winning, everything, we're great. We won. You lose. Okay, what could we do? This, that. You start thinking about all this and that. Believe me, I stayed up many, many nights past midnight, thinking about, if we just should have done this, or still watching the film and watching game film and trying to figure that out. And so you use all that extra time is tough, sometimes. But I really just, we try to go to dinners as much as we can. We try to go do fun activities as much as we can. We base everything about the team, wanting it more for your teammates, more than yourself. That's a big, big thing that, I learned from Coach Murphy. He talked about that. It's like when you got kids to buy into they're wanting it more for their teammate than they want for their success for their teammates than they want for themselves. Man,
that's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. And culture and team chemistry from the get-go has been something that, I know how to do that. I know I've been on some teams. I've been on some bad teams, and I've been on some good teams. What I want to be on the good team. What is it to be a good team? And it's those are life lessons, like you said as well. It's the teaching moments. Trying to find those teaching moments that they can use later on. Like, hey, we might be down in the dumps now, but is it really that bad? Is it really bad? It could be this. It could be that. There could be a lot of other situations that you could be in right now that are a lot worse. And so trying to get them past that and get them back on those kind of mindset is huge. But I team them to death. We do as much teams, and sometimes they're like, oh God, you can even see like we get every team, and so they kind of buy into it, but it's not easy. I tell them you don't have to be the best of friends outside of this and doing everything together all the time. But when we're together, we are. We're going to do what's right to be a family and to be a team and pick each other up and push each other and do all that and be happy for each other, because that's more than half the battle when it comes into to team sports. It really is.
Well, and you have to coach them or team them to death, because you necessarily have a new, at least, class in the locker room every single year.
Every year, yep.
Yeah, so that's really tough.
It is.
All right, so tell me this, for our younger players out there, give me top 3 things they should be working on in order to improve their game.
Like I think I already brought up, find what you love. If you love to do it, if you love to go practice it, you love and you want to, and you're always feeling like I want to get better and want to get better, find that love. Find that love, find that thing that really just makes you click. Makes you want to go do it every single day. I think also, not saying that you have to have all these coaches and all these club teams and all of that, but just going and experiencing those things on your own. You can go out and play catch every day. You can go out and sit a ball on a tee and hit balls every day. You don't need somebody to do that for you. Go do that yourself. Go find a time to, if you can set up a net, have your dad get you a net and a tee, and you can set up in the garage and hit all day long, because I think you feel better about yourself. You feel good about it just doing that. Because if you have dad telling you this, another coach telling you this, another coach telling you this, that's a lot. That's a lot to process and a lot to do. So go enjoy it. Go enjoy it yourself. Go enjoy it with a group of friends. Go enjoy a team, because that is where you're really, really going to be like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. And falling in love with it, I think, is huge. Learn how to be be an athlete, not just the skill set of your sport, but there's other things that are involved with training, stretching, doing these things. You're growing like crazy when you're a young kid. So stretching, conditioning, running, there's a lot of things that you can do that are outside the sport itself that are going to help you in the long run. And I know I have kids that still are going to training, strength and training type coaches or speed coaches, and feel like they're almost getting more out of that now than they are from going and taking 100 cuts or throwing 100 pitches or whatever the case may be. So I think learning how to, develop yourself, develop your body and be an athlete, because there's lots of avenues out there for that. Even high schools have the summer conditioning and the performance course and those things going on that, man, you can benefit quite a bit, from that, especially at a younger level, more than just learning all those basic skills and working, like I said, taking just 1,000 cuts. Your body has got to be prepared to be able to do that as well. And it's going to be changing and doing some things. So you've got to get yourself at your peak, performance level is what you do with your body and your training and what you're putting into your body, and eating and drinking, all those kind of things really, really come into play. For that. So,
well, if looking at what our girls are eating at post game is any indication, I think we could probably got some nutrition work to do there.
Fuel to get that energy in there sometimes, but yes, you got to be careful.
Yeah, and growing up, we never did any kind of agility training.
We never learned
strength training started in middle school for the football team, but you can start that way earlier. I'm not saying lifting weights, but you can do all kinds of body weight stuff just to start getting stronger.
Body stuff, is huge. And learning the quick twitch stuff of your body and being able to do, and that's performance course this past summer. You saw them kind of really, emphasize that and the stretching and getting your body ready to do that, because if your body's sore, tight, you're not going to be able to run as fast because you're going to be hurting. So there's a lot of that is, they don't think about it as kids. They just go. You just go, you have the energy, you just go and do it. And they're not thinking about that as kids. But when they hit to that higher middle school level, and they need to understand that it's time to start training your body and getting your body ready for it as well.
Sure. And to your point, the payoff is just massive.
Exactly. It
massive.
Is. It's huge. It's huge.
All right. So we have time for one last question.
Okay.
All right. I always ask everybody, give me top 3 book recommendations, or if you're not a reader, a podcast recommendation.
Well, one of them, like I keep going back to, is Patrick Murphy. He has he spends a lot of time on the mental game, and I can't remember the exact. I wish that makes me so mad, because this one book, I'm gonna have to get back to you.
Okay. We'll put it in the notes.
It's about the mental game, but they use a lot of sports analogies in it, and sports thing. This guy was a sports psychologist, I believe, and he came in and was teaching them all these different mental ways to handle this and that and do. Because I think any of those mental, the ones that are working on you mentally, our books are fantastic. Mm-hmm. I have a book at home right now, and I was just talking about it, and the name just went by me, because I'm not a huge reader. Reader. I watch a lot of videos. I watch a lot of things like that, or I listen to coaches' old videos or drills that they do and things like that. So I learn a lot more from that than, because I'm not a huge reader, and I'm more of a listener and a visual guy, and seeing it visually helps me. So there are so many of those out there. There are so many videos that you can get. I mean, in today's world now, the social media, you can quickly just get on Twitter and put in Alabama softball, or put in UCLA softball, or Florida softball, and all these things are going to come up in all these videos, and you're going to find it right there. So, and then camps, going in and finding a college camp, or these camps that are strength and conditioning camps. So those things are huge, and I think, anytime you can, promote that. And I promote a lot of those things for a lot of those coaches, and a lot of the kids that are coming out of colleges that are trying to become a coach. They like putting on camps and things. So I like promoting that kind of stuff as much as I can. But, I think just finding something that you really, really love and really, really want to take that extra time to do. If that's in the back of your mind that I want to go work more, and I want to go work more on this, I think you found it. And I think that you found what you want to do. For sure.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, Coach, congratulations again on the 500th win. That is so huge. Yeah. And thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you.
Well, I really enjoyed this. I love talking about it. I've had the experiences.
I can tell you light up.
I do. I love talking about it, and I wish I could do this more. And hopefully, at some point, I can get to do this more. And at the level that I'm at. And the many years that I put in, because I think there's a lot of stuff that I can help young kids and young athletes with, for sure.
Absolutely. No doubt there is.
All right.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Driven Crowd Podcast. We'll see you next time.